sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you. In the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special double Game Week 24 live stream with myself, Steve-O. We've got a few guests this evening. With myself and Steve-O, we've got James Bang. Hello, James.
Hello, Jason. How are you?
We got Aussie Boy. Hello, Aussie Boy.
Oh, hello.
We've got Man Like a Crisp Packet, also known as Charlie Bit My Finger, also known as One Rovers Vlogs, also known as... How many names have you got anyway, Charlie? How you doing, buddy?
I don't know. People just keep changing my name. Evening.
Good evening. We've got Paulie FPL. How you doing, Paulie?
Good evening. Not bad. How are you?
We got the Daily Llama. How's it going, Daily Llama?
All is good, Jason, down here in London. How's it back there in the studio?
Nice and warm, mate. Nice and warm. So yeah, I hope you've all had a pleasant day today and enjoyed just relaxing, not thinking too much about the double game week. And then all of a sudden, the early team news comes through, and then bombshell. Aguero has been benched. I mean, come on. We saw it was a possibility. We saw it coming. But anyway, Steve, how are you this evening?
Well, as we mentioned about 6 seconds ago, I was watching Dave the FPL stream. It got to about 7:20 and the news came through that Danny Ings was not starting. So I did the transfer that I said I was going to do, which is get rid of him and bring in Greenwood. However, I will say that I was tossing between Towson and Greenwood, but I thought, no, stick with your gut and just go with Greenwood. And I've just gone with Greenwood. Another thought process was maybe doing a -4, bringing in Abraham and Greenwood for Ings and Mopay. But I thought, no, just go with your gut and stick with it. But as I just mentioned again 6 seconds ago, I saw the title of the stream saying Jason's wildcard, and I just instantly went, he's gone and done his wildcard. He's gone and panicked. So it's going to be fascinating to see what you've done. I'm going to have it up on the big screen, see what you've done. But before we get into that, we must tell our audience who our correspondents are covering which game. So, Aussie boy, you're covering the Bournemouth versus Brighton game, aren't you?
Wait, sorry? Oh, okay, I'll switch.
Yeah, okay. You're doing the Brighton versus Bournemouth. James, you're doing Everton versus Newcastle?
Yes, I am. Hoping for a DCL brace.
Yeah.
Oh my
Charlie,
god,
you're
I
gonna be
was
covering the
watching
Man
the
City
game from
is that
last
right?
week.
Yeah, Man City, yeah.
And then finally, Llama, you hopefully should be having some goals down there. Chelsea versus Arsenal.
Oh, I hope so, Steve-O. You've put me up in an absolute skanky hotel in London so that I could move from the Emirates over to Stamford Bridge from Saturday to this evening. It's Chelsea against Arsenal. On paper, it should be a good game, but let's see if I can go for 3 out of 3 and have an absolute washout. I've got some early team news in, but I think the other guys will probably have their team news up and ready.
No, please. Before we get, if you got any early team news, please just let us know now. Get on with it.
So it looks like we've got a starting lineup for Chelsea, all the usual names in there. Rudiger back with Christian, Jorginho, Kante. Tammy Abraham starts up front. You've got Willian there in the midfield, Kovac, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Emerson, yeah, all the usual faces there. Bench names is Mason Mount and Batshuayi, if anyone's still got them lingering about their teams. Moving into the Arsenal setup, Leno in goal, Bellerin at the back. Lacazette starts up front alongside Ozil, will be there as well, Torreira, Pepe, Mustafi, Luiz, Xhaka, Martinelli. If anyone got in the cheap forward for Arsenal, he is starting this evening alongside Saka.
Just thank you for that, Llama. For anybody that is interested as well, I've done a load of bets, about 20 quid worth of bets. They're all fantasy football bets.
All going to get ripped up a bit.
What I've done is just gone and put a pound on various scorers that are probably going to score from an FPL point of view. For example, Llama just bringing this news about Lacazette starting up front, so I've put a for first goal scorer Lacazette and also Abraham as first goal scorer as well, just as simple examples. And there are various other bets that I've done as well from an FPL point of view.
Oh my
Charlie,
god, Trossard's on
do you
the
want to
bench,
reveal
I
the
just
big
realised.
team news regarding Man City away at Sheffield United? Because there's a couple of FPL assets which have been benched.
Yeah, the most, obviously, two big ones. Aguero benched for Jesus, and Sheffield United, Lundstrom is dropped as well. Mo Besic comes in. You also got no Mendy playing either. Man City, Bernardo Silva on the bench, and yeah, apart from that, Man City's team: Edison, Walker, Otamendi, Laporte, Zinchenko, Rodri, Fernandinho, KDB, Mahrez, Jesus, and Sterling. And the same lineup for Sheffield United, apart from one change: Lundstrom out for Besic.
Fantastic. And James, is there any shock team news for the Everton Newcastle game, or was it all as it was at the weekend?
Well, Sidibe gets called up back to the lineup, so he'll take Coleman's place. Apart from that, it's a pretty standard lineup here in Everton.
And like you said, you were expecting Calvert-Lewin for you to come through.
Well, he did well against Newcastle away last time with a brace, so hoping for at least a goal.
And finally, Aussie boy, any shock team news for Bournemouth versus Brighton, or is it all as we would expect?
Well, I'm a bit surprised that Trossard's on the bench, but
is he?
some people have it.
Yeah, nice
but that's
one.
about it.
Is he really?
My mind
Yeah,
is
Trossard's on the bench.
Wow. Well, let's be
Well,
honest.
I've already, I think I'm nearly already into my 3 subs as well, so...
Brilliant. I'll just quickly get this one simple question out the way. So, Aussie boy, who are your 3 double game week players if you've got 3, and who did you captain?
Well, I have Trent, Mane, and Salah, and I triple captain Mane.
Brilliant.
I like Salah.
James,
Exactly the same as Aussie Boy.
you triple captain Mane.
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk about this all later. Charlie.
I got the same players, but just normal captain on Mane.
Wow, and
'Cause
Lama.
I don't have triple captain.
Hiya, Steve-O. I think I can make out what you're asking. I've got TAA at the back. I've got Salah in my midfield. I've got Mane sitting up. Salah. No triple captain for me this week, Steve-O, but the captain's armband goes on Salah.
Ah, right. Now then, let's get the elephant out of the room. I'll just quickly get on with it. I didn't use my triple captaincy. I did stick with Trent Alexander-Arnold as my captain. I just thought, just go with your gut. I was very, 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 very tempted by going with Salah based on patterns. So I did mention this in Dave the FPL stream. Essentially, Salah is due to patterns a double-figure haul in the next 2, along with Mane. So you Mane captainers, he's expected to get a double-digit haul because of a pattern that's formed. Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to get 2 single digits, basically. But let's get the biggest elephant out the room, which is Jason. You've entitled the video Jason's Wildcard. I'm going to be surprised by what you've done. Tell us, number one, why you've done it, and let's go and see what it is.
Well, wait a minute, Steve-O. I think the fact that you called Jason's an elephant's a bit of a different subject.
I don't know why it's like a big deal, to be honest with you. I know I was also watching Davey FPL stream and keeping an eye on Twitter about early lineups and team news. And I had it in the back of my mind, if Aguero was going to be benched, I would be looking to change my team, and I didn't want to do a -12. Bear in mind, I did a -8.
Yeah, remind the audience what you did.
So I took out... oh, God. I took out Vardy.
And this was yesterday night, wasn't it?
Yeah, I took out Vardy, and I basically changed Vardy to Aguero. And I earlier did the move for Son, from Cantwell to Son, and the enabler for the Vardy to Aguero move. Who again was it, Steve-O?
Wasn't it?
I've done so many transfers in the last.
Soyuncu out, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Soyuncu. It was. Oh, this is great. This is so great. Hang on, let me have a look. Can't remember what I did now. Like literally, I've been transfers. Right. Yes, I did. Oh God, so many. Yeah, I think it was just a case of going to.
Your transfers are like my missus' shop.
Aguero in for Vardy. Yeah, and then I did Mupai in for Ings. That was it. Mupai in for Ings. And the reason I can't remember... and then the reason I can't remember that Mupai transfer was the fact that I've taken Mupai out. That's the reason why. Right. So Mupai hasn't even had a chance to do anything for me. So, yeah.
Well, I also did a -8 for Aguero, like I'd say, maybe 12 hours before the stream. And basically, what did I do? I've been given crap already by some of the people who were telling me not to do it. But I did 4 transfers. Who did I get rid of? I got rid of Soyuncu, Traore, who else was it? I'm trying to think. Oh, Cantwell and Vardy for Aguero, Hayden, Grealish, and Holgate.
How do you feel now?
It's not good because Ings is also in my team, and because I'm in Australia, I only got up 5 minutes ago, so I couldn't see the team news.
Yeah. So anyway, back to what Steve had asked me about my wildcard. I was literally, let's be honest with you, I was in a little bit of a panic with Aguero not starting, and I thought, right, I'm just gonna just do something really crazy and bring in Jesus and Calvert-Lewin. Essentially, I've wildcarded to bring in Jesus and Calvert-Lewin and Mane. Of course, I've brought in Mane as well. Have you seen my team, Steve-O?
I just agree with Graver Dave. It just looks like a free hit team for this particular game week.
No,
that's all you've done.
No.
Right, I'm going to pick a bone out of you. See if you've jinxed Calvert-Lewin. Vince and I are going to pay you. We kept quiet on that transfer all week. and then 5 minutes before the deadline, we both admitted we'd made a -4 to take out Maupay for Calvert-Lewin, and then bang, you go and ram it down us in a wildcard.
By the way, Steve, if you're still interested, I had Salah and Mane in my team and Joe Gomez.
Sorry, yeah, Salah and Mane in your team, yeah, and go Gomez, and who did you captain in the end?
Normal captain on Salah.
Did you triple captain or not?
No, just a normal.
Wow. So we've got. What are your thoughts, Jason, on this?
Well, my thoughts are my thoughts are that Mane. I did think that a lot of people will go with Mane. Salah's been sparing a lot of chances, but I couldn't see past Salah myself. And for those people that are telling me what I should do in my team, you can go to someone else. Go to someone else's stream. I don't want to be told what to do in my team. Sorry.
Wait.
I'm not listening to any of you guys. Well, no, I haven't got Aguero this week. No, I haven't. And
What?
judge me in the next, I don't know, 90 minutes.
You're so lucky.
Why am I lucky?
Because I have him.
Right, yeah, okay, well, there you go.
I think it's because you set your alarm at the wrong time, Ozzy. If you got up 5 minutes before, I guarantee you Aguero wouldn't have team.
Oh, damn it. Well, what can
No,
you do?
constructive criticism, says Simeon Bachelor. I mean, I'm all for constructive criticism, but there were people saying you shouldn't have done that. Well, you don't know for sure if it's going to be a bad move. It could end up being a good move. We'll have to wait and see. I know that one of my close friends have said that I've essentially thrown my season away. I think that's a little bit over the top, but
to be honest, Jason, looking at that team, this is obviously only my opinion.
Yeah.
The only two players that I think are a bit iffy are your Tottenham players, only because they've got a few iffy fixtures over the next few weeks. But see everyone else in that team of yours, they've got decent fixtures for the foreseeable. It's not all that bad, I don't think.
Bear in mind, I had to do these moves.
As much as I don't like admitting it.
No, bear in mind, I literally had 3 minutes to do these moves. So what did you actually do with your team, says Lewis Copey. Everyone is captaining Salah and Mane. Watch out for Firmino to outscore them both. Well, we've seen that Steve-O's captained Alexander-Arnold. So, again, it could be a game week where we see Alexander-Arnold outscore the midfielders.
Just to add as well is that I did a bit of maths, and I said to myself earlier that I'm probably going to miss out by about 6 points on Salah and Mane. I'm predicting that Alexander-Arnold is going to get one clean sheet and 1 assist, and maybe a couple of bonus points across 2 games. Mane and Salah, a goal and an assist each. I worked it out to be 6 points, and like just been mentioned, everybody has the same players. I'm not going to be missing out on much, and it's like hashtag play your own game. In fact, I'm going to look at GWiz's team, but interestingly, you may want to look at top spot in our Cash Min League, because Juggernauts has done a -8, and I think it's well, barring one player, I think it's a beautiful.
Wait, he's done a -8?
Yeah, Juggernauts, yeah.
Wow.
And
wow. He did Son and Haller in for Rashford and Richarlison.
And Tanganga as well for Sidibe.
Yeah.
And breaking news, GWiz triple captain Trent Alexander-Arnold. And he's got the same Liverpool players as me.
Wow.
You never triple captain, Steve-O, did you, mate?
No. I don't want to waste it. Well.
Fair.
Good evening, Another Hoops. How you doing? What's going on in the games? Absolutely nothing so far. It's only been 4 minutes. 4 minutes played.
Jack
Nothing
Grealish
here,
has been
just
fouled about
2
4 times.
crappy teams playing against each other.
Who are you watching, Ozzy?
Brighton, Bournemouth. I'm just going for Aaron Moy and Matt Ryan.
Right. I think Bournemouth are going to win that.
I hope Rico does, because I'm assuming I'm going to be eating into my third place on my bench. So. I'm hoping Rico does something, or maybe Matt Ryan keeps a clean sheet. I don't know.
Can't believe Juggernaut's brought in Haller. I don't think that's going to do anything.
You brought in Haller?
Yeah.
Wow.
Can I just bring you to the attention of, I'm just going to assume this is Gravy Dave based on the fact that the person's called David Foster and his team is called the Gravy Gang, so I'm just going to assume this is Gravy Dave. If it isn't, I apologise. What the hell does he know that we don't? Because he's played a 4-5-1 and he's benched Aguero. I know Aguero hasn't started, but he benched Aguero.
He probably got the early team news.
Yeah,
Of course, yes. Yeah, of course. I know,
mind you, wouldn't it be funny if Aguero came on in the 60th minute and scored 2?
I'd love it. I'm not going to lie. I'll be laughing my head off. the same with Danny Ings. I'll be laughing my head off if he comes on and scores 2 goals, because it's just going to be my luck that will happen.
I hope so. Could be a chance. Oh.
What happened there, Charlie?
Literally, ball down the right, Sheffield United crossed it in, and if it would have been a harder cross, it would have gone straight across the face of goal, and it would have been a tap in, but Fernandinho got a block on it.
Charlie, you've done a -4. Do you want to tell the audience what's? Well, I can see what you've done, but do you want to tell the audience what you've done?
Yeah, done Sterling out and Sarr because he's injured, and brought in Mane and Trossard, who's on the bench.
So who's going to be coming on?
Well, I got Ings and Trossard both not starting, so Lundström second sub.
Oh dear.
Stevens from Southampton, so hopefully he gets a clean sheet and comes on. And then Hayden third sub. So yeah, so annoying.
Mohammed in chat saying Almiron will get one against Everton today. Brought him in, part of a wild card. Almiron.
As he speaks, Almiron's dribbling into the box, but just got tackled.
Yeah, Manchester. Off the in-betweeners quality.
Steve-O did get Ings out in the end. Yeah, he did.
You watched Sterling this game troll us, Jason.
Oh.
I hope so.
I'm used to being trolled. Don't worry about it. Hello, Reece. How you doing? You brought in Deeney for a punt. Fair play.
Show me the Mane. He captained Firmino. There's 2 players that he brought in this week for a -4. Sarr and Richarlison out for Lucas Moura and Martial.
Oh dear. Moise Keane has just potentially cost DCL a goal. Had he just left it, it would have been a tap-in for DCL.
Hey, Davey.
He decides to have a greedy touch and it goes out.
Wow.
What's happened, James, there?
So the ball got crossed into the penalty box, and if Moise Keane had just left it, DCL would have had a tap-in into an open net.
Great.
But Moise Keane got greedy and mishit it, and it's gone out.
Davey, I crumbled, mate, in the last dying embers of the minutes before the deadline, and I decided to panic and to do a wildcard. Stay tuned to find out how it pays off, if it pays off. Thoughts of me doing Ings to Deeney for a -4? Why would you do that? I don't think you need to do that. I think Ings is just being rested.
Jason.
Yeah.
Breaking news: Jack Chater, that's doing exceedingly well in the Torbay Elite.
Top of the Torbay Elite League.
15,000th in the world. He's triple captain Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Oh wow! Fair play to him. Fair play. Well, everything Jack's done has worked and paid off this season. Who knows? Well, that's a good omen for you, Steve-O.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. I've watched Block F. I know Block FPL's here. Good evening, Block FPL video on him. I know he's doing exceedingly well of late, climbing up the ranks. Davey FPL, of course, another player doing really, really well. All Salah captainers, and I'm just like, do I copy him? No, I'm sticking with my gut, and if it fails, it fails. I'm having let's do an Aussie boy. I'm having a crap season, so I may as well just do something that will that will hopefully work. And yeah, like I said, I think I may miss out on 6 points. That's all. But using the triple captaincy chip was not in my thought. I did actually activate it. I'm not going to lie, but then I was just like, "What are you doing?
Ooh.
Just stop. Just stick to your what you wanted to do." And yeah, I am. Are you guys happy that you've used the triple captaincy?
Well, I'll start. Yes, I am happy because 2 pretty good fixtures with the player I've captained having good history against them. Then there's a 6-day break between the games, so I reckon they'll not Mane will play most games. So I'm pretty that's why I did it. I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
We got a runner said, do you consider getting Laporte in, Jason, with the late team news? I couldn't afford him. With the Mane transfer in, to be honest. No, I did. I thought for I only had 3 or 4 minutes to make these moves, so it took me about 3 seconds to work out that I wasn't going to bring Laporte in.
Davey, I'm listening to the radio in one ear, and Jason and our correspondents in the other. Simple as it gets.
Oh yeah, I see the 2 headphones.
Paulie, what's going on in your game? Anything of interest?
It's pretty end to end at the minute. Jack Grealish has been fouled about 4 times already. Delafeu got away with a yellow card, which looked quite a nasty tackle. But other than that, it's getting to edge of box and then just coming back out to midfield.
Cool, that was a bad challenge then.
Charlie, go on, tell us about it.
Yeah, Man City, I think it was Zinchenko passed it back to Laporte and Besic just clattered him. Pretty awful challenge. Obviously, Laporte's just come back from injury. Could have been a red card easily, but it's been given as a yellow from Besic.
Wow.
Who's watching the Everton game?
I am. James.
Yeah, how's it looking, James?
Newcastle started off really brightly for the first 7-8 minutes, but then it's been all Everton since then. Calvert-Lewin looking sharp as well.
I'm just trying different flavours of pies down here now. This game's not shooting kick off till 8:15. So I'm just stuffing my face now, lads. But I'll correspond in about half an hour.
All right, mate. No worries. Sorry, I'm just checking up on. We got someone asking how Cenk Tosun's playing in the Palace Southampton game.
I don't think we've got anybody watching that.
There we go.
To be honest with you, I don't think we've got anybody corresponding from that particular game.
No,
but,
we'd
Jason,
have to relate.
Now we're 15 minutes after.
What I'll do, lads, is I'll quickly dive to a different stadium now, correspond for half an hour, and then I'll dive back down to Chelsea. All right?
Okay, mate. Cheers. Don't break the speed limit.
What do you How do you feel now, Jason?
I feel numb. Feel numb. I don't know. I'm just gonna prepare myself for a very stressful hour.
Thank you for this fascinating bit of information, Ruddy Pogsdenia. He's given us the Cash Mini League captainer choices, and so here we go. Salah, 45 of our Cash Mini League players, 24 of them triple captained. Mane, 24 captainers, 10 of them triple captained. Firmino, 4, 1 triple captain.
Wow.
Trent Alexander-Arnold, 10 captainers, 4 of them triple captained. So there we have it. It appears that obviously safety was suggesting Captain Salah. Maybe go with Mane if you're kind of chasing Trent for a massive risk, basically. And I would like to think that it will be paying off for myself with Trent. But Jason, you weren't confident last night with this particular game, double game week. You thought it may just end up as a damp squid.
Yep. and yet I chose it to wildcard. Yes, I don't know. Like, this is the dangers of monitoring early team news, that you can just get yourself into a bit of a mad panic. The irony being, like, if I just benched Aguero and played Greenwood, it would be ironic, wouldn't it? But I don't know. I'm going to try and be positive as I can be. Jason, can you explain why you've wildcarded and beyond shock? Says Bilal. I can't really right now explain. Let me have some time to think about an answer to that question, Bilal. I obviously think that my team that I wildcarded to can outscore the team that I had before. Still 0-0 in the Sheffield United Man City game. I was expecting it to be 2-0 by now. What's going on?
Still 0-0.
What's going on?
2-0 against Sheffield United? No.
Man City haven't had a shot yet.
Great.
Just they've had a lot of possession, but they haven't really done anything with it. Sheffield United have had the better opportunities, really. But yeah, still 0-0.
Hey, Alex Reef, FPL Crop Duster here. Welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here. Samir saying it's going to be a feeling. He's got a feeling that it's going to be a dead game week. Samir, let's hope it won't be. Yeah, Zahil's a good transfers there. Yeah, really good. I like him. Did you do that for -4, or just did you have 2 free transfers? What's up, Steve-O?
I just love Mohammed's comment there. Expect Bournemouth Brighton game to be 0-0 at full time. Well, that's what I predicted.
I hope so.
2 dire teams in.
Oh dear,
Bournemouth
Moyes Keane's done it again. He just had to lay on a pass for DCL to finish, and he instead goes for goal.
What is he doing?
Is a greedy BAS. You know what I want to say.
Tosin's just put it wide. Should have tested McCarthy, but he's just put it wide. So Tosin owners, it should have been 1-0 to Palace, but unfortunately Tosin has put it wide, somehow not putting it on target. Live reaction there to the Crystal Palace game, as James was just explaining that Calvert-Lewin has just had an opportunity taken away from him again.
Yeah, I'd much rather
together, James.
Calvert-Lewin play with Richarlison. With Moyes Keane, he's just hogging the ball and taking all the shots, and is just not passing when DCL's in a better position.
Absolute.
Well, first goal. Where's it coming from, Steve?
First goal. If I was to put money on it like this, probably Aston Villa game.
I hope so, as it's been boring so far.
Well, actually, what am I on about? I said 0-0 in that game. I also said Bournemouth Brighton would be 0-0. So let's just be real here, and let's just go with only 3 other games left. So let's go with Everton. The way James is talking, it sounds like there's been a few things happening there, but just
I think at this rate,
what is he
Chelsea
doing?
Arsenal game.
Say that again, Lama.
I'm saying at this rate, it's probably going to be Chelsea Arsenal.
Oh my god.
Charlie, what's going on?
Well, Sheffield United were playing it out from the back. Basham just give it straight to Sterling, give it to Mahrez. Mahrez running down the right, passed it back to Sterling. A great opportunity for Sterling, but straight at the keeper. Good save. Still 0-0 corner to Man City.
Well, while we've got a bit of a dead air, I'll reveal all my bets. This will pass a bit of time. So, Lama, you'll be interested in this. For the Arsenal game, I've gone with 4 correct scores. I've gone 2-0 Chelsea, 2-1 Chelsea, 3-1 Chelsea, and 1-1. And also Abraham and Lacazette as first goal scorers.
So you're hoping for an Arsenal win then?
I've then gone with a double up of a draw in Bournemouth Brighton, Crystal Palace Southampton as a double. In the Sheffield United Man City game, so Charlie, if you want to hear what I've predicted on that game as a bet,
Yep.
Sheffield United to win 2-1, Sheffield United 1-1, Man City to win 2-0, and Mahrez and De Bruyne as anytime goal scorers. In the Crystal Palace game, Wilfried Zaha, Cenk Tosun, or James Ward-Prowse as anytime goal scorers. Lucas Digne as an anytime goal scorer. In the Everton game, Jamel Lascelles as anytime goal scorer in that game. Bournemouth Brighton, I've put Adam Webster as an anytime goal scorer. I know, Charlie, you own Adam
fingers
Webster.
crossed that happens.
Yeah. Gerard Deulofeu as the final bet. Gerard Deulofeu as an anytime goal scorer. So lots of bets there. Hopefully something comes through, but we all remember what happened last time. This will all be ripped up to pieces. A complete waste of 20 quid, but who knows?
You've put as many bets on as what Jason and I transferred.
No.
I might not play FPL next season and just do bets per game week based on.
Yeah, you're pretty good at the scoreline bets.
Yes. Although
there could be something at this Southampton game. It's just flashed in front of me.
Oh dear.
Yes, we
But
do.
As a goal, I think.
No.
At Southampton, but I'm not sure who it is, lad.
Southampton
Just
scored.
letting you know.
No.
Who is it?
No.
Looks like a Redmond assist.
Is it Shane? Is it Stephen Long again?
Why did I keep Gaeta? Why?
Who scored?
I think it may be Redmond that's actually scored it. Yeah,
I don't know who scored, lads, because I'm about 2 minutes behind.
Redmond has scored.
Rip my Kelly dreams.
There we
Rest
are.
in peace.
At least Southampton didn't concede.
So
Yeah,
there we
it's
are.
just
Redmond, that's official. Redmond has scored.
Every 10 minutes, my team's just going downhill. Swear to God. All right.
There we are. Apparently, it's a Stevens assist.
Stevens.
Oh
Come
my
on.
goodness, lads.
He's on my
It's an
bench.
absolute peach of a goal at Southampton.
He's on my first bench as well, Steve.
Redmond from about 19 yards out just blasts it into the top corner. What a finish from
Oh
Redmond.
my days. So first on my bench as well, Stevens. And I've got FPL Mechanic in the Champions League as well.
Oh.
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 Norwood yellow card, just took down Sterling.
There we have it.
I'm just repeating this goal, Steve-O. This goal's stunning. Keeper, no chance. You could have had 5 keepers on that goal line and never saved that.
Right, Sterling trying to do 50 step overs. I'm going straight into defender.
Yeah, I should have played Aguero.
It sounds like, Aussie boy, that your game is supposed to be absolutely atrocious.
Well, there have been a few chances, but...
Hang on. Otamendi is just on a bicycle kick. From a poor goal kick? What? Did anyone watching that game let me know what the hell?
Yeah, I'm watching a game and I'm just a little bit behind a sec.
What?
See.
Anyway, sorry.
In my game, there's just this one guy on Brighton, Maka Hella something, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
You
but
can back.
he's been, I don't know what his name is, but number 16, he's been pretty good so far. He's getting involved, and obviously Aaron Moy can do no wrong, so he is doing great as well. So, yeah.
Jason, we had an off-air conversation last night.
Bloody hell. Wow. Yeah, overhead kick off to Mendy. Wow. What a save.
What, that was an Otamendi shot, was it?
Yeah, overhead kick, like Jace just said. But mine's a bit behind because I'm watching it on the BT Sport app. I'm not actually watching it on the telly.
Right.
Yeah, so Jason, we had an off-air conversation, and we were actually talking about Aguero, and Una made the point, well, he's up against Tottenham next, and you said, yeah, I'll probably captain him. Well, that's actually my plan. I'm planning on bringing in Aguero for Jamie Vardy and captaining him versus what's his face, Tottenham. You've obviously got Jesus in the team. Do you think I'm mad, or do you think go for it?
I honestly don't think you should be asking me any FPL advice questions right now. Just wait and see, my friend. Wait and see. I mean, no, I just think that right now, I'm just I'm taking this game week as it comes, really, and I've always got my wild card to fall back on if it doesn't go well.
How many chips have you got left? Just the bench boost, Jason?
Eh?
Shot.
You've only got the bench boost left.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. Yeah.
It's the only chip you've got.
Yeah.
You'll see, Jay.
I just realised I can actually watch the game on my phone using BT Sport. So I'm watching it on BT Sport now. So there we go.
Yeah.
Jason, am I going to see you in Glasgow busking for FPL chips?
What do you think of that, Charlie? Bringing in Aguero for the Tottenham game.
Yeah, could be an option depending. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't go.
Sorry, Charlie, Aussie boy, what's going on?
Oh, Neil Morpie nearly scored.
Oh.
But Ramsdale with an amazing save.
It's typical, isn't it? It's typical.
Morpie, mate.
Oh yeah, well, that Brighton are on the front foot, and yeah, beautiful ball in from Aaron Moy.
Oh, great save.
Shame Trossard didn't start in.
Yeah, I know. Shame half my players aren't starting.
Paulie, what's happening in the Aston Villa game?
It's still end to end. The most exciting thing that's actually happened is the ball actually deflated, so they've had to change football.
McCarthy's just pipped a ball over the crossbar from a McCart. Great save.
I don't think anyone cares, but Bernardo's got a yellow card. If that affects anyone.
As long as it's not Webster.
Gravy Dave, can you clarify? Sorry, that was your team that we were talking about earlier on. Simeon Batchino, I don't bother betting, apart from when it's just for a laugh like today, because I never win, as you'll find out tonight. That's why I don't bet. I'm absolutely useless. I'm not going to repeat the anecdote which I mentioned a while back about why I don't bet, but that anecdote sums up everything as to why I don't bet, basically. So,
Watford have just took a quick free kick over the defence, and Pepe Reina has actually beaten Delafeu in a race to the ball.
Bloody hell. What?
Told you us 40-year-olds could still run.
James,
we have a goal here. Moise Keane has just scored.
Of course it would be Keane. Anyone with the assist?
We'll have to confirm that in a minute.
You could get excited about it, James. It's a goal!
I've got DCL.
So to
just sat there. Yeah, there's a goal at Everton. Some guys just randomly turned up in a blue t-shirt, stuck the ball in the back of the net. Who is it that scored?
Bernard assist, apparently.
It looks like oh, you know what? DCL's the assister of the assist.
For God's sake.
You should have had 2 goals, though.
Assist?
Moise Keane, is that his first goal as well for Tottenham?
Yeah,
for Everton?
First goal.
Oh, it took him long enough. His dad's already called for him to come back to Italy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
So it's Bernard with the assist.
Oh,
No,
I saw
Jason.
I saw Holgate in the chat, so I thought it was going to be that. But what can you do?
I wouldn't bother. Don't even bother reading chat.
Yeah, don't read the chat.
It's waste of time.
The next time we're deciding who's going to commentate on what match and stuff, remember who you pick, James, to watch. Because during that Man City game, all he spammed us all game was bad news.
Yeah.
And he's doing it again tonight.
Yeah. I'm starting to think that James is a bad omen.
Yeah.
Make sure you give me a game where you don't have anyone.
That's why I've watched the Chelsea game.
How
Can't
has
believe that's
Ramsdale
kicking off
saved
so
that?
late.
I don't know. Jesus.
What is going on?
Why have they?
There's no goals. Where's the goals coming from?
Is there any reason why it's at 8:15?
No,
What
absolutely
would this be
no
a
idea.
disappointment game week? What should happen? All built up for an amazing return and everything.
Yeah,
and then
they're
it
probably
all
just
comes
going to
crashing
blank.
down.
They're probably all going to blank.
Sheffield United are really giving the game, well, playing some really good football.
Yeah, they're doing well.
And they're really tough to break down, as expected, to be honest.
Very
Could
well.
be some-
organised.
could be some-
Calvert-Lewin, who's had a
Could be something happening at Bournemouth, guys. There's a flash on this. I repeat,
Oh.
could be something happening for Bournemouth.
Aussie boy.
Is Wilson going to
Oh.
do something?
Oh, Rico! No, it was Rico. He nearly scored. Oh,
Oh, stop flashing now. What's happened?
What's going on,
Rico's
Aussie boy?
nearly scored. Oh my god.
Rico nearly, wow.
Oh, that would have been amazing. No. Because Lundstrom's not playing, so
Oh.
now I reckon he's going to come on. If
What
no one
happened?
Rico's... Oh my god, they've won it back.
Jesus, kicking off
Wilson.
here.
Oh, no.
Kicking right off. Egan
Oh,
and
Rico.
Laporte.
Oh my god, that would have been amazing.
Aussie, it's okay. Don't
Jack
cry.
Grealish has just played in El Ghazi and he's gone for the curl. It's gone over the bar and landed in my back garden.
Oh my god! Harry Wilson, Jesus. Alright, Bournemouth are picking it up now.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, it's... Oh my god. It was all Brighton, but all of a sudden Bournemouth are going right for it.
In our moderator league,
Oh my god.
Gotham, who's top, has triple captain Salah, and Brett Mollison has triple captain Firmino. So they're going to have two differentials, and
Sterling is shocking, man.
Penalty! Mahrez taken down in the box.
yeah, it's a penalty. to
Who's
Man
going to take
City.
this? Who's going to take it?
Come on, Mahrez.
Aguero.
Please be Mahrez.
They're going to bring
Who's
Aguero
gonna
on to
say that
take
then?
it. Will it be Jesus? Will it be Jesus?
yeah. Could it be Sterling?
It could be Sterling. It could be Sterling. I hope not. What a troll Sterling is! If it's Sterling, I'm going to be.
What was that?
That one nearly £3, that one.
Could it be what? Pretty angry.
This is so annoying now, the app's
Who
behind.
has taken it? KDB?
Jesus is going to take it.
Is it?
I hate
Is it?
that app.
Damn.
Oh, not Jesus. Save it.
Jesus is going to take it.
Alright, I'm watching it, guys.
He's missed it. He's missed it. Henderson saved it.
Yes!
Henderson saved
no.
it.
Pickford dived to his right.
You are
Get in!
Did
are
you say
It was a
Henderson
very
saved
weak
it?
shot.
Has he
Get
saved it?
in! Is honestly, Jason, it's Henderson just got a save.
He saved it.
Yes, Henderson saved it.
Oh my god, mechanic, jammy.
Money, money, money!
Jammy.
Oh,
He's got flipping
fantastic.
Henderson.
Wait,
Sonani,
so
of
I'm
course he
so
has.
confused. What's happened?
Henderson
Jesus
saved
has
the
stepped
penalty.
up to take a penalty, and Henderson's just saved it.
Oh, how's it feel?
Oh,
That's why I
fantastic.
betray Aguero. Watch
That is a
Aguero come on
bonus for
80th
me.
minute and score a goal now.
I think there's a goal at Bournemouth.
Yeah. Bournemouth have
What? I
scored.
haven't seen it yet. Oh,
Oh, wow.
I think there is. I think there's a goal at
Harry
Bournemouth.
Wilson? Hey, that's a goal.
Is it Harry Wilson?
Harry Wilson.
Damn.
Who wants Harry Wilson?
Is Jason frozen?
It's Jason Frozen.
What an awful penalty from Jesus, mine. That is one of the most shocking penalties I've ever seen.
Yeah.
What did he do? Did he just
Harry
scuff
Wilson
it?
scored.
He just tapped. They're going to take it again, aren't they?
Billing has gone across. Nearly to
He
the
has to take that
forgotten
again,
man. And
doesn't he?
Solanke. It's Solanke assist, I think. Yeah. Dominic Solanke.
How is he
He's got
allowed
the
to do
assist.
that, Henderson?
Assist.
Henderson were about 2
Dominic
yards off his line.
Solanke.
How is that counted?
Assist.
That should be retaken.
Please don't say that because I'm going to go absolutely ape.
Yeah, I
They-
was going to say the same.
But they haven't.
can't-
Because
No, that
They
they
haven't
played on
because
for an
it-
extra 2 minutes.
that's crazy. He was like 2 or 3 yards off his line when he took the penalty.
You see, this is in all seriousness.
Oh, dry your eyes, mate.
In
It's a
all,
Henderson save.
in all seriousness, this is what I can't stand about VAR and rules that are there in place that aren't stuck to. And if you're telling me that Henderson's a yard offside, sorry, you know what I mean, a yard off his line, and VAR hasn't been used, then what's the point in it? Because
Yeah.
there has been so many times when VAR has been used in situations which, let's be honest here, it didn't need to be used because it was playing no advantage for anybody, and yet the decision was overruled in favour of the defending team. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the attacking team have got a decision potentially that should have gone.
Could have
for
something
them.
going on at Watford. If anyone's watching the Villa-Watford game, there's a flash
Paulie?
on the screen.
Nothing's happened
Yeah,
yet.
we've got it,
Ball's
we've
out
got a
for
goal.
throw-in.
Watford scored. Delafe-
Is it Delafeu?
No, it's an
Say it's
assist.
Decore. Say it's Decore.
Troy Deeney.
Oh, God's sake.
Deeney. He's got a quality record against them.
Someone's brought him in the Cash Mini League. I think it's Jug. No, who was it that I've just seen?
He's got a quality record.
I'm away to get my pie and my bovril. This game's about to kick off in about 5 minutes' time. Be
Someone's
back
got.
soon.
Someone brought in Deeney in our Cash Mini League. I'm sure they did. Was it Juggernauts? Who was it?
Yeah, because his records, he got 2 against them a couple of weeks ago when they beat him 3-1, I think. And he's a Birmingham fan as well, which makes it even better for him.
Oh, I don't know who it was, but somebody got him gone in their team. That's really frustrating.
Yeah,
Was it Show Me the Money?
Delafeu crossed the ball and Deeney marked 6 yards out, headed it into the net.
Well, Mechanic has Delafeu as well. How amazing.
Drama.
Oh no.
Aussie boy, what's happening?
Yeah, Ryan went out for the ball. He dived for it and they fell on the ground. Wilson could have just took it and pushed it out and shot, but no, I don't know what he's doing. So he's passed it out and then it's gone out for a throw-in. Well, he's passed it out of the area. Oh, he just needs to run, turn, and shoot.
James, what's going on the Everton game, mate?
Not too much happening ever since the goal.
Well, I've got some bad news for you, James. The last 2 home fixtures under Ancelotti have ended 1-0. So
Oh boy.
it looks like you're going to be in for a long, long evening.
Thank you.
Well, there was somebody in our Cashman League that brought in Troy Deeney. I can't blink and think who it was, but someone definitely brought him in. And well done to you, whoever it was. Oh, we've got another goal at the Bournemouth.
Nathan Ake, I think. Oh,
Oh,
no
it's
way,
2-0.
is that Rico taking the corner, please?
Are you serious? 2-0 to Bournemouth?
Yeah.
Oh
Please
my
be
god.
Rico. Please be Rico assist. I think that was a
It's
Rico
Callum
assist.
Wilson.
Oh, wait, I
Callum
thought
Wilson.
that was,
It could be Callum Wilson or Pascal Gross own goal. It depends on who got the touch.
Yeah.
Aussie boy, you're
Oh
there.
God.
No, it looks like Wilson, I'm pretty sure.
Callum Wilson.
Yeah,
Andy,
no, it looks like it's Wilson.
if Andy
The
Resi
forgotten
Desi's
man
watching
has
this,
scored.
who did you
Oh,
take out again?
There could be VAR here because he was holding off someone in the box.
Just
They may
another
have
brilliant
thought-
chance for Southampton. Redmond sounds like he's been a bit of a nuisance for Crystal Palace.
Wait, was that Rico? Does anyone know in the chat if that was a Rico assist?
Yeah, probably. He's on corners. It's either him or Wilson.
Yeah, I reckon it was him. Oh, yes, thank you.
The goal is to be confirmed. The assist is to be confirmed.
It also says the
Well, it
goal
looked
is
like
to
it
be
was Rico
confirmed
because
as
he
well.
took the corner. I don't think really it took a... I think it was just went straight there. So.
Jason, are you back?
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Devastated.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
I've got Stevens on my bench as well for Southampton. He better come on.
Oh, it's been counted as an own goal.
Right, okay.
Really? And now that's not going to be a Rico assist, I don't think.
Yeah, well,
of course it will be.
still be an assist.
No, because I think it's going to count as a Callum Wilson assist then.
Not if he got the final touch.
No, because Callum Wilson, I think, hit it into the person.
Poor
I thought that was.
challenge
I didn't
from
think.
Fleck.
I didn't think it hit him.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, yellow card for Fleck. If anyone's playing him.
I'm gonna mention this
wow.
now to my good friend Mr. Reed. If you're watching, I am gonna
Stop.
message you right now. But anybody
Oh
that's
my
captain
God.
Trent, Charlie.
That could. I don't know. That is what exactly the same challenge as near enough what Aubameyang did to the Palace player the other week and got sent off for. Should be a red for Fleck, but it's not. It's only a yellow, and VAR haven't checked it.
Oh,
So anybody that's
this game's got exciting.
anybody that's captained Trent Alexander-Arnold, me, we're all gonna fail. Because I'm sorry to say this, but a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, Mr. Reed, has captained Trent Alexander-Arnold. The reason why I'm saying this is because Mr. Reed is doing absolutely atrociously this year, and that means then that I'm going to fail. So Trent Alexander-Arnold has failed as a captain, everybody. So well done to all Salah or Mane captainers. Brilliant.
Who scored the second goal at Bournemouth?
It was. It looks like a Pascal Gross own goal. Is that right, Aussie boy?
Yeah, well, that's what it said on the app.
Right, there we are.
We're about to start now down at Stamford Bridge. That'll be interesting during your half time.
No one knows who.
Hopefully, Trossard comes on the second half and gets a goal. They need it.
No, see now I just got.
No chance. Brighton are awful. Brighton are awful.
Don't know why they're doing so bad.
Well, they're not very good on the road. They're much
All of
better
a
at the
sudden,
Amex.
Bournemouth have just turned it around and started playing well.
Could they stay up after all? De Bruyne, Sterling, he's been very poor again. Sterling, very poor.
What do you
You
think's
sound like
going
me
wrong
last
there,
game week, mate.
Charlie?
Sorry.
What do you think's going wrong with Sterling? What is it? The system? Is it just his attitude? What do you think?
I don't think it's his system or the attitude. I think his attitude's fine. It's just having a bit of a bad spell this season, really. I think because you look at it as well, even his assist. You know, over the last 3 seasons, he's got like 40 assists. He's only got 2 or 3 this season. It's just everything about his game. Like last season, he was finishing the chances. This season, he's gone back to Sterling of 4 or 5 years ago, where he was missing a lot of chances and just playing poorly.
Yeah, we all tipped him to have an amazing season this year, didn't we?
Yeah.
After the hat-trick game week 1, it all went downhill from there.
This game's just got Aguero coming off the bench to score the winner.
Yeah, it has.
Yes, please. Oh, that would make my day. That would make my day.
Half time here at Everton.
Go for it, James.
It's 1-0 with Moyes' keen goals. And in terms of other players, Sidibe's look pretty attacking with a decent target.
James, he's a fantastic attacking defender. He's absolutely brilliant.
He's quality.
He's just as good as Digne. They're both just as attacking as each other.
So, Dean, you got any chance of scoring for me in any time?
Well, he's had a few good set pieces, but no one's finished it. No end on it.
Brilliant.
Fernandinho yellow card.
I'm not sure if anyone owns him, but Tyrone Mings has just got a yellow card as well. John Terry's on the sideline shouting and pointing at all the Villa players. He's just actually taking his jumper off, so I think he might be bringing himself on in a minute.
Wait, Steve-O, can you remove me from
I fancy just popping down the shops, to be honest with you.
Room so I can put on the loudspeaker.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's fine.
Godwin's got Dean Henderson and Harry Wilson on his bench.
Steve-O's got Dean Henderson on his starting lineup.
Have you, Steve-O?
Of course, yeah. What do you think I was laughing my head off?
I think you'll find it.
It could have been anything.
That's why Llama was happy to.
Yes, I think you'll find that your namesake Steve-O also has Henderson in goal.
Yeah, because our teams are the same.
Pretty much.
That is a lot better. There we are. Thank you.
There we are. Fantastic.
Just to let you know, guys, Tammy Abraham looks like he's got a bruised bum cheek. He's clenching his bum cheek. I think it's a bruise in his bum cheek.
Are you looking forward to this game, Lama? What did you predict for this? I predicted 1-1.
I think I was the same, Steve-O. I think I predicted 1-1, potentially a 2-1 to Chelsea. In fact, I think it was 2-1 to Chelsea I predicted. But to be fair, it's Arsenal that have actually started the strongest, but we are only 4 minutes in, so there's a bit of time still to go.
I'm going to go for a walk.
Well, let's hope that my bets come through on that. I'm not going to lie.
No, there's a ad for a burger with grilled chorizo on it, and I'm frothing at the mouth. Well, Jason, there he goes.
We'll be back in a few minutes, lads. I'm just getting a half time.
Yeah, that's fine. Is it half time, Charlie?
Yeah.
Yeah, half time, yeah.
Do you want to just before you go, just give us a quick thoughts on the first half?
Yeah, I mean, Man City first sort of 20-25 minutes had a lot of the ball, didn't really do nothing. Sheffield United had a few good breaks, been looking really good, but the last 10 minutes, Sheffield United have been making mistakes, giving the ball away. But yeah, probably fair sort of half time. Man City obviously had the better last 10 minutes, but yeah, still 0-0 half time.
Cheers, dude. Thank you for that.
All right, be back in a sec.
Paulie, your thoughts on the Aston Villa versus Watford game?
The first 15 minutes were end to end, but like I said, there were no end product in the area. After the goal, Deeney goal, Delafeu assist, it was basically all Watford after that. Aston Villa didn't really get out of their own half. There's been a Tyrone Mings yellow card as well, if anyone knows.
And I'll just mention on the Crystal Palace-Southampton game, essentially Crystal Palace are rubbish and Southampton look like they're going to win this 1 or 2-0. Crystal Palace continue their terrible, terrible home record. I'm sure FPL Lad will testify to that because you are absolutely pants. Llama, what's it been like so far?
As I say, it's been Arsenal that have been all goal. Chelsea have had a few attacks, some horrific goalkeeping though from the Chelsea goalkeeper. Just handed to Arsenal, we couldn't do anything with it. A couple of corner kicks for Arsenal, but to be honest, I'm thinking this is going to be another rotten game you lads have sent me to again.
Yeah. John Harris, evening boys. Got Henderson on my bench. Why would you bench Henderson? And don't say because you got Man City. I get that, but I wouldn't even be having two. Llama, your thoughts on having two playing rotational goalkeepers? I don't personally like it anymore, but your thoughts on it?
I can understand why people do it, but it wouldn't be me. Wouldn't be me. The only time I would think about it is when I was planning for like a bench boost, obviously. But if I wasn't planning for a bench boost, then I'm Scottish, mate. I'm going for the cheapest options. So, nah, just one in for me. Button on the bench. He's been there since game week 1. It's the
brilliant.
hottest seat in the FPL world.
And another reason why Trent Alexander-Arnold's going to fail. Do you want to know why, Llama? Because John Harris has gone and triple captain him. Thanks, John. Thanks, John. Thanks, Mr. Reed. Brilliant. Flaming hell. Just for people to know that John played McCarthy instead. In fact, John's team is very, very similar. Well, actually, yeah, very similar to mine.
Oh, great.
Cheers, John.
That means it'll be similar to mine.
Well, because you've done your -4, Llama, our teams are looking a bit different. Because now, of course, you've got Calvert-Lewin in your team, whereas I don't actually have.
Pie?
Yeah, I've kept Mopai. Where are you? There you are. So, if I was to look at your team right now, once it loads up, there we are.
Is that the team name that I changed to control?
Control, yeah, to delete. So, Tanganga, Decore, Perez, and Calvert-Lewin are your and Scientiu are your differentials on me. So 4 differentials, and your captain as well. Can I ask you why you didn't go with Trent Alexander-Arnold in the energy captain?
I thought about it right up until about half an hour before the deadline. And I don't know, I had it in my gut, which is obviously different from your gut, which is why mine is a solid big gut and yours is a toned gut. But I went with Salah just because I think that's him on form now. You see how much that goal meant to him when he took his shirt off and managed to deduct himself a couple of points. Thanks for that, Salah. But I just think he's got it now. That'll be him. He's going to ride a bit of a wave. And I'm just going to keep that triple Liverpool now for the next 5-6 game weeks.
What are your thoughts on me bringing in Aguero for the Tottenham game, where I'm probably going to captain him?
Listen, hashtag play your own game, as our very own G-Wiz would say. I just couldn't be doing with the headache of Man City. KDB and potentially their goalkeeper are the only 2 people that I'd keep in my team. Laporte, now that he's back, possibly is an option now. But see, for everyone else, I'd just be sitting there week on week giving it, I don't even know if he's going to play. Why would I want to put myself through that every week? Don't get me wrong, like Jason did a couple of weeks ago, got Aguero in, great shout, worked out for him, got his points, all the rest of it. That's great. But then you could sit for the next 6 weeks and get nothing out of them. Swings and roundabouts, mate. Swings and roundabouts.
Absolutely. James, are you still there?
I am here, yeah.
FPL Boone is asking, how has Calvert-Lewin looked so far in this game?
Rubbish, because I got him in on Wildcard.
Well, the thing is, they're playing a 4-4-2, and Calvert-Lewin is the most up-front player, and the ball is only getting to Moise Keane, and he's just not passing. So he's not getting much of the ball.
See, the thing that I've seen with Calvert is that the manager's wanting him playing it inside that 18-yard box. He doesn't want him moving outside the 18-yard box. When I seen Ancelotti telling him that, I thought, hey, that's the man for me. A bit like Ali McCoy's back in the day, pinned in the 18-yard box and just sit there. But it's just unfortunate, like what James is saying. We've got a couple of greedy players in their team.
I'll just quickly run through what's happened at half-time. In the Aston Villa versus Watford game, it ended at half-time. It's 1-0 to Watford. A Deulofeu assist. Troy Deeney getting the goal there. Moving on to a bit of a controversial one here, not knowing who scored, but Bournemouth 2-0 up against Brighton. Harry Wilson with 1 goal, and it was a gross own goal, and it was Rico and Solanke with the assist there. Crystal Palace losing 1-0 to Southampton. Stevens passing it on to Redmond. Redmond, I believe, taking on about 30 different players and then rocketing the goal into the back of the net. Everton 1-0 up, thanks to
Say rocketing again?
Rocketing.
Yeah.
Rocketing.
I knew you
Moise Keane with the goal, Bernard assist, and then finally on to the Sheffield United 0, Man City 0. Mahrez was brought down in the penalty area. Jesus stepped up and Henderson saved it. But a bit of controversy around this, that there really should have been a VAR decision in the sense of the penalty should have been retaken. But for whatever reason, VAR was not used. Lama, it's been 15 minutes or so into the Chelsea game. How's it going?
It's been like the pies, Evo. Absolute mince. You guys are superb at putting me into matches that are just endless piles of rottenness. It's end to end with nothing happening at either of the ends. I cannot wait to see what you are going to send me to the next game week, because there's bound to be another plum tie in amongst it as well. Back to you in the studio, Steve-O.
Cheers, Lama, and we should hopefully be coming to the start of the next 4 games. The 7:30 kickoffs should be kicking off soon.
Subs?
What was that, Aussie boy?
Have there been any halftime subs? Pep,
not to my knowledge, no. I haven't heard anything on the radio as of yet.
Alright.
But we'll keep you up. I doubt there will be, to be honest with you. I can't see. It's very rare for substitutes to happen at half time.
Only
but you never
when
know.
I have the players, when David Silva was brought off, when I had him.
I wouldn't be surprised if Aguero come on. Sterling's been awful.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
and like Aguero has been so good. How have you benched him? I don't get it. Doesn't make sense to me.
Do we think? Hold on. Something happening at Chelsea. A good save by Leno.
Is that?
It was Abraham's.
Uncle Juicy's asking, are you going to do some vodka shots with him if Trent fails you?
What was that, sorry?
Uncle Juicy TV says, will you do some vodka shots with him if Trent fails to get a return?
No. I'll only be doing vodka shots if anything goes right for me, which never... And I mean, when I say right, I mean in the sense of if Trent Alexander-Arnold gets me 2 clean sheets and 2 assists, essentially I'd be wanting to get a mad score with him. But
you know what, guys? Rico will... Watch Rico not come on for me. That's what I'm going to say.
He'll probably keep a clean sheet, won't he, Aussie boy?
Yeah.
Steve-O, just to your point there, I'm about a minute behind here just because there's Do you know what, Steve? They've actually planked a pillar right in front of the seat. That's why I'm about a minute behind for some reason. But the save that you're referring to, Abraham should have done better. He's actually 2 yards out from goal on about 40-odd thousand a week, if not more, and he misses from 3 yards out. Yep, goodbye. Well done, Tammy.
Well, FPL has given the assist to Rico.
Yes. I was going to ask you, James. Tomorrow evening, obviously, Man United are at home to Burnley. I'm playing Greenwood because I think that he should be starting, but we all know what happened last time. Hold on. Oh, Chelsea, another shot coming in, tipped over the bar by Leno, but I'm sure Lana will be able to tell us in a minute. But James, will Greenwood start tomorrow in your opinion, or do you think that he ain't going to play at all?
Oh, always hard to tell, but judging by the comments, he says he deserves to play, so I'll lean towards him giving him a game.
Jason, obviously, as a United fan, would you expect Greenwood to start?
Yes.
Are you hoping he starts?
Especially against a bottom 10.
Yeah, and plus Rashford's injured.
But this happened before, like James said the other day, or yesterday, and he didn't play.
Martial was
Greenwood.
out, he didn't play a striker, and Greenwood and Martial occupy the same position, so that would mean Martial would have to be shifted out to the left. So there is a good chance he plays with, Mata or Lingard, who we love.
We've got a goal. It's 3-0 to Preston now against
for
Barnsley. Back
God's
to you in the studio.
Ban him.
Get him out of here.
Ban him.
I can actually hear the stadium at Oakwell from my house, and it's very quiet at the minute.
Is that true?
What?
Yeah, I'm Barnsley, aren't I? Yeah, I can.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What is it? 3-0 to Preston?
Yeah, Preston 3-0. Yeah.
Jesus.
Going down.
You've been on good
You know
form
what's
as well.
sad? I don't even know who Preston is. Isn't that like some university?
It's a championship team.
Oh.
I'm just for everybody listening in. I'm just personally looking through my transfers, and I'm looking at potentially. If I'm telling you now, if Greenwood starts tomorrow, that'd be put me in a positive mindset, because that would mean that I'm going to bring in Aguero for Mopay, get rid of Maddison, which would require me bringing in a 4.1 midfielder, which I know is terrible, but I could go with like a 4-3-3 formation. But obviously looking for a 4.1 midfielder is pretty much non-existent. So this plan is completely out the window. You never know, but that would be... Yeah, there's no one there. I think the cheapest player is 4.3 from a midfielder point of view, sadly. So that plan is out the window, unless I do a -8 to get rid of Scienci, but...
Yeah, just do that, Steve. Just take the -8.
to bring in Aguero. Just have this, here we go, gut feeling that Aguero is going to do really well against Tottenham. Tottenham are just an absolute shambles.
Yeah, well, I'll be there with you, mate. I'll have him as well.
Talking about shambles, have you still got that bottle of in it? So I might take a couple of shots and pour them in my eyeballs just to waken me up in this game. Just, I tell you what, just give us a nudge if something happens in this game. It's a great way to catch up on sleep here watching Chelsea Arsenal, I'll tell you that.
Aussie boy, as a Liverpool fan, what are your predictions for the two games that are going to be taking place in this double game
I
week?
reckon we'll beat Wolves 2-1, and then we'll beat West Ham 3-0.
So going with the general consensus that most of us are thinking then.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that the goal, if anyone scores a goal, it's going to be Jimenez, hopefully.
Yeah.
But that's about it. But I reckon I can't see. Well, I can't ever say we're not going to win, or we're going to lose, or we're going to draw. I always predict the win because I have faith in us.
No, absolutely, and obviously you've triple captain Mane. Of the two of Mane and Salah, obviously you've got them both, and obviously you're clearly predicting that Mane will do better. Why do you think Mane is going to do better than Salah?
I just think I've had faith in Salah this whole season, and he's let me down so many times, and it's just my gut feeling was like, oh, I should do Salah, but then I'm like, why? Oh, because, and it was the same reason why, I can't remember who said it, but his celebration and stuff, that was the only reason why I was going to go Salah. So I was like, Mane has insane history against these two teams. Whenever I was looking at the fixture history on the app,
could have something at Southampton. Sorry, guys, could be something going on at the Southampton.
Yeah, there is.
What happened?
Southampton 2.
Just on that Southampton game,
Stuart Armstrong.
Apparently something happened before half-time at Southampton game, and Zaha and Ward-Prowse were having words, and apparently Wilfred Zaha has actually poked Ward-Prowse in the eye, and it went to VAR and he didn't get any yellow card on it.
Oh, really?
Wow.
I'm not sure if it...
rest in peace, my Kelly dreams.
So wait now. Wait, go back a step here. So Ward-Prowse has been poked in the eye. It's been caught on VAR. I would imagine it's quite blatant that he's poked him in the eye, and VAR still missed it.
Yeah, if you have a look on Twitter as well, there's a load of pictures of him actually with finger in his eye.
What the shit? So basically, like Jason was saying a few weeks ago with VAR, we need to draw lines and stuff. Were they trying to find out how far in his eye socket his finger had went? Nah, I can still see a part of his nail. So it's alright, we'll just let that one skip.
That's bad, isn't it? VAR.
That's bad. That's bad if that's happened.
Nathan Redmond's been given the assist for the second Southampton goal as well.
Wow, Nathan Redmond.
Goal and assist. Get him in.
Just...
All aboard the Redmond train! All aboard!
Is he 4.1?
Oh, now you're really clutching at straws now, aren't you?
Flaming hell. 6.2. Brilliant.
Come on, Aguero. I want him to come on.
Well, I'm looking at your if Aguero and Ings don't come on, Aussie boy, which it doesn't look like Ings will now, because obviously they're winning 2-0, and it would be ridiculous if he was to come on. Then it looks like Rico will come on for you, because if Lundstrom doesn't come on as well,
and Hayden do something as well, then
you're having a laugh. Hayden's going to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah. I hope I hope Ings don't play so Stevens can come on, because at the moment he's got an assist as well, hasn't he?
Well, I can't see. I mean, Charlie, do you think Ings will come on?
Well, you never know with FPL. They can give him a 10-second cameo like they did with other players.
It's going to be ironic, isn't it, if Sheffield United actually keep a clean sheet and Lundstrom doesn't play?
Yeah.
Steve, can I tell you why I went with Mane over Salah?
That is quality from Fleck. And it's a yellow card for Rodrigo.
Go on, Charlie, just quickly, and then James can tell us why he went Mane. That'll be interesting to hear.
He was running, he had Rodrigo on the right, Walker on the left, and he done them both, and Rodrigo just pulled him back, and it's a yellow card. Free kick to Sheffield United.
So, James, tell us why you went with Mane.
Mane's never blanked more than 2 in a row, which he's just
could have some. Johnny James, we could have something.
We've got a goal here, absolutely. It's Calvert-Lewin, DCL.
Oh, is he really?
Come on.
Wait, what?
Yes. Come on, DCL.
Calvert-Lewin with a cracking finish.
Oh, brilliant! Finally, something starts to go right. There we go.
Get in there.
Alright, so let's see what happened here.
Yeah, tell us,
Holgate
James.
assist again.
Digne.
There's a penalty at
Look-
Chelsea and David Luiz a straight red.
Oh, are you
Eh,
serious? Oh
I
my
think-
god.
I
Tammy
think
Abraham.
Oh,
two,
no.
2 seconds, guys. There's been a bit of an uproar here. I can't see an absolute thing of what's happening. I'll update you just shortly.
So Digne with a brilliant cross into the centre of the box, Calvert-Lewin, who uses his left foot to shoot past wide of Dubravka of his left post.
Digne assist.
Brilliant finish.
Senior assist, not a goal.
Yeah.
Oh my god! David Luiz.
Against his old club as well.
David Luiz. He obviously wanted a bit of a cuddle with good old Tammy there in the 18-yard box. Tammy Abraham with a great ball put through to him. He rounds the defender, rounds the keeper, about to slot it into the goal, and David Luiz says, whoa, 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 whoa. I want a wee cuddle first. All right then. And he's brought him down inside the box. It's a straight red. Probably quite rightly so, in my opinion. We'll update you in a
Classic
second.
David.
What happens next?
Of course he'd get a red against his old club.
Blimey. Action all around. We've just had a goal at Everton. We've just had a goal at Southampton. Now a red card. And penalty now at Chelsea.
Doesn't have to be the last man, Matt Brennan.
To be honest, Leno had a flick at him as well. You know, like one of
Jorginho.
trying
Looks
trip
like
me
he's
up
gonna
on the
be
way
a sub
past.
at Brighton.
And some good news, Calvert-Lewin is now on 2 bonus.
Lovely. I need him to get a brace now to have any chance of beating Mechanic.
I think Brighton.
Oh, David
Good
Luiz.
substitute. Trossard is coming on.
Yay, come on,
Jorginho
Trossard.
scored.
Looks like he's
Steve,
there
do you just
getting
want to
a couple
watch this
from
game?
the bench and-
Come on, Trossard.
Oh, has he
please.
scored?
Can Jesus score a goal now to make up for the fact that you missed a penalty, please?
No, Henderson's going to save another penalty.
Yeah.
So, in the Villa game, Villa have started the second half lively. It's all in the Watford half, and I don't understand how Jack Grealish doesn't get injured with the amount of fouls he gets again.
He definitely
give
has
him
to
like
go
a-
to the Euros. Definitely.
It's like Hazard, isn't he? He can get kicked all day long and not get injured.
I should give
Yeah.
him a compensation goal.
Oh, that's ridiculous, Steve-O. I know you've already called it, and you called it right, obviously. Why wouldn't you? It is a goal for Chelsea, it is a penalty, but wait till you see it. Casual as you like. A little step up, little skip, a little hop. And
He
then
does that all the
slots
time.
it- and then he slots it to the keeper's left. Keeper should have actually saved it. He was about, I was going to say something there, a little bit of millimetre away.
Who is it?
From saving that.
Jorginho.
But Jorginho
Oh,
scores.
yeah. Oh, Abraham assist with the because he went down.
He loves taking penalties.
And there's my first goal scorer bet down the pan. There's the first bet of the evening gone.
Oh my god, I think they're making a triple sub Brighton. Before the 60th minute. Oh no.
They have to. 2-0 down.
That'll be
Come on.
Trossard coming on.
Come
Yeah,
on, Trossard,
Trossard's
you
coming on. I
legend.
think
Come on.
Connolly as well is looking like he'll come on. I don't
Trossard's going
really
to
know
get
who-
2 goals, isn't he? I can see it.
This is the most average I've seen Kevin De Bruyne play in a football game in a long time.
Whereabouts is he playing? He's playing deep, Jason.
No, he's
Is
not
he
playing too deep. I mean, he's dropped back a bit, but he's got like a free reign where he can just drop back and go forward in his own sort of,
Yeah.
Rain has just pulled off a worldy save from about Deeney from about 2 yards out.
Whew, I'm glad you said he pulled off a Wordley. I thought you were pulled a hamstring. Like,
Worldy.
Well, according to the radio, apparently now Chelsea could run riot.
Oh my god. Oh, Bournemouth nearly scored another one.
yeah, you're quite right, Steve-O. It is all Chelsea now.
It was actually a double save from Reina. First off,
What
both
happened,
off Deeney.
Paulie?
Ball came across. Delafeu crossed it back. Pepe Reina actually palmed it out to Deeney, who had a shot from 2 yards out. He saved it, and then he got the rebound, and it was going in the top corner, and he had to just jump up and tip it.
That's so close.
Giacomo has come off Connolly. Then it looks like Bernardo is also coming.
Rodri with the header, really close.
That's so close.
Yeah.
That is inches.
Wow. Is Mapai still
Bernardo's
on, Aussie boy?
coming off, and
Oh my god, did it brush the post?
Literally, it was so close from Rodrigo.
Yeah. Marcho's
Mousset is
come
coming
and
on.
then Trossard.
The legend Billy Sharp's going off. Mousset is coming on. 58th minute.
Question, Aguero, if he comes on, who's coming off?
Sterling or Jesus.
Probably.
Both been quite poor. Man City.
How would you feel
Jeez.
if Jesus is off now and Aguero comes and bags 2 goals?
Jason, what's your view on Mahrez or Steve-O?
I've not really seen much of Mahrez. I mean, he obviously got the penalty, didn't he? And he had a few passes into the box that Sterling and Jesus haven't made anything from. But other than that, I've not seen much of him.
So
Really?
unless he was in a bargain bin, you wouldn't buy him.
If anyone
you
has
can
Douglas
afford-
Luiz, it's just come on for Danny Drinkwater.
Oh my god, I'm just listening here. Jesus again gets tackled by Basham in the box. They're defending so well. Dean Henderson with another save from a header from Jesus.
Oh no.
Steve-O. Oh, great save there from Hudson-Odoi shot at goal there.
Well, he's
Steve-O,
got his...
I was just about to say, do you want to know how far behind I actually am? It's only just flashed on my screen that Calvert-Lewin scored.
Oh,
Wow.
wait, Boone has just asked what the subs were. No one really
That was like an hour ago.
has done anything. So Trossard's come on. Mupai has
Lam-
stayed on. Yeah.
Mupai stayed on, right. Lama's so far behind. Torres is still playing for Liverpool.
Yeah, that's about right.
Here's while we're all while we're bored.
I don't believe this. Oh my god, they almost scored. Sheffield United almost scored. Oh my god, Edison to the rescue.
How's Henderson doing on save points or save points wise?
I don't want to look.
Oh, he's
Yeah, I
on
know you. I
5,
know you
think.
won't look, but I know Steve. I'm just
think he's on
thinking
5.
if City did score, is Henderson still going to do okay points?
Oh yeah, of course he will. Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah. Let's have a look.
So if you guys can afford and you want a Newcastle defender, I would highly recommend Matt Ritchie. He's on penalties, he's a defender, and he's been on every single set piece and corner. And he's been bombing down the wing for Newcastle.
Henderson is now on 15 points as it stands right now.
Oh, I'm so glad I triple captained him as well.
A question.
James, I take on board what you're saying there about Matt Ritchie, but I think the major factor for me, and I don't mean this rudely to anyone that's from Newcastle, because Geordie's nearly in Scotland anyway, but it's Newcastle. That's
Good
the
fixtures,
only
though.
thing that puts me off.
I think
Yeah.
they got Norwich next.
Sorry, Steve-O, back to you in the studio.
It's a poll for everybody. Okay. Is this worth a -8? Bearing in mind that I will be captaining Aguero. So Aguero in for Mopay, Maddison out for Fleck, Sayuncu out for Tanganga, and this is based on the fact whether Greenwood starts tomorrow, of course. Is that worth a -8? Bearing in mind I'll be captaining Aguero. Just a simple why for yes, N for no.
That's a yes from me as a rival.
Well, I'm 50 points ahead of you.
Aguero's warming up.
Oh, yes, please. Please. All he needs is 10 minutes. Anyway.
Oh,
Raheem
these
Sterling
boys
into the
love-
penalty area, smashes it over the crossbar.
Don't know what happened there.
Well, what's going on, Charlie? We've got Jason going mad here. Is it really Man City bombarding the goal, or is it a bit hyperpole?
Yeah, they've had a lot of possession at the moment. And yeah, they need Aguero.
Steve-O, in other words, Charlie's not watched any of that game and doesn't have a clue what's just happened in the last 10 minutes. Only joking, Chris Polk.
Thanks to everybody that voted. It looks like you're all saying no, but
Sterling. Oh, what is he doing?
You know, Paul. Charlie, you sound like me covering the City game last week. I mentioned Sterling's name 20 times and he missed every single shot.
I don't know what he's doing there.
Paulie, we've had a question from FPL Fozzie. How's Jack Grealish looking?
Is looking the liveliest Aston Villa player, like he always does, getting into good positions. He just keeps getting fouled, and he's had about 4 arguments with the referee, and nobody's
Aguero's
actually
shirt's
been booked for
off.
fouling him yet.
He's coming on.
He's coming
He's
on.
coming.
Oh, yes!
Steve-O,
Please be for Sterling. Please be for Sterling. Please be for Sterling.
It has to be.
Yes, Llama.
Jack Grealish, how is he looking? Have you seen his haircut? All slicked back with a little bit of graded shave at the sides, with his Peaky Blinder hat on when he gets changed in the changing room. He's
Well-
always going to look good, isn't he?
When it comes to, I always keep saying this regarding patterns. Based on patterns, he was always going to blank, basically, because it's been return, blank, return, blank, return, and now he's at this game, so it looks like it's going to be a blank. So
And
if you've
that's
got
a brilliant segue, Steve-O, to why I chose Mane. Every time Mane's just blanked twice in a row, he's always hauled more than 10 points after 2 blanks.
Actually, I think you find it's after every 3. I think it's after every 3, James, because I looked at it earlier.
Mane's never blanked 3 times, that's the thing.
Oh, no, but good news for you is that what he does is he goes on 3 single-digit games and then a double, and he's due a double.
Okay, so I've been looking at another pattern, which was after 2 blanks, he always hauls. And he's just had 2 blanks. And,
Too many patterns. It's like listening to folk doing their knitting here with the amount of patterns that are going on.
And Salah's never returned.
Hold on, we're having it's
No!
On for Jesus.
Wow.
Come on!
Wow.
Something's just happened. I just heard a crash bang wallop. Oh, it's Jason. Jason's crash bang walloped. What just happened? Did someone just miss a sitter?
I think it's the news that Jesus is going off and
Jesus
Aguero's
has
on.
come on.
Oh,
But
yeah.
did,
that would do
the
it.
question is, did Jesus come on after 60, before 60 minutes?
No,
Yes,
after
it's 60.
Oh, so we got
Oh,
0
Jason's
points
just
then.
gone.
67 minutes.
He's turned off his camera. He's took off his headphones. I don't know what's
Oh,
happening.
really? Fair enough.
It just has that phone in break.
This is
the-
why they say when the fun stops, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Calvert-Lewin yellow card.
Jason will be fine.
Is that what's known as a raid quit?
Did you guys hear that? Calvert-Lewin yellow card.
Bruno knows all about rage
Oh,
quit.
wow.
Charlie, I'll ask you, if Tanganga starts tomorrow, do you think he's going to be first teamer for Tottenham?
I can't see why not.
I brought him in for that reason, Steve.
Doing really well.
He looks really good against Liverpool when he played. To be fair.
Steve-O, you did see who I took out for that tango, man.
No, I didn't check. No, who was it? Tell us.
Rico.
Oh, Rico. Wow.
Well, he's probably not going to come on for me anymore, so whatever.
Oh well.
Has
Oh.
Ings come on, or is he still on the bench? I hope he stays on the bench.
James, is Calvert-Lewin going to get a second?
A second goal looks unlikely.
Oh.
They've
Wait,
Newcastle
let's
have been.
remember... Oh, yeah.
Newcastle coming back into it, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they're starting to get back into this, and they've got some rhythm
Remember
going.
that Aguero scored in the 80th minute, both of his goals. So it's always possible for him to get a big boy return for me, I'm hoping.
They've just been really slow in their build-up.
Villa's just scored. Douglas Luiz.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Steve
Really?
got a flash at
Who's
Villa.
the
Yeah.
assist?
Douglas
Bloody
Luiz has
hell.
just scored.
Who is the assist?
I'll tell you in a
Really?
minute.
Paulie
tell-
will be able to tell us.
Don't tell us it's Grealish.
Please be Grealish.
Paulie will be able to tell us any minute now.
It's just gone out for a goal kicked for Watford, so I'm not sure how far behind I am. It left Ben Foster miskick this goal kick.
He's
Well,
my
ten-
goal. He's my keeper as well. Thanks, Ben Foster.
I hope it's not Grealish. If it's Grealish, I'm going
Vish
to
says
go
it
down
might
and just shame
be
the rest of these here.
Target.
Oh, Aaron Moy nearly absolute cracker.
And that's the second person saying target.
Uh,
And it looks like Grealish got the assist to the assist.
Mm.
Yeah, it looks like Grealish assisted target.
Oh, so not Douglas Luiz.
No,
no,
I think
Aussie boy, assist of the assist.
Yeah, I think it's Louise
Oh,
that's
wow.
scored and it's Target that's assisted.
Oh.
Yeah, it is Douglas Luiz. Grealish passed it out to Target. Target had a shot, which the keeper saved, and the ball went
Oh.
across the 6-yard box, and Douglas Luiz put it into top corner.
I find
Damn it.
it's just clean sheets everywhere, isn't it? Apart from in obviously
Got a
the.
bit of good news for Calvert-Lewin owners here.
What's that?
Why is that,
been
James?
subbed off because he's a greedy player, and that means and Coleman's come on, so that means Calvert-Lewin's the only player up front.
Perfect.
Keane's
Good.
off.
Thanks for that, James.
That's good.
So we've got 20 minutes of just DCL up front.
Oh, Ings apparently is coming on as well.
No.
Was it really?
Oh, don't say that. I was...
Are you serious? I got Stevens on my bench. Oh my god.
Steve,
Oh,
I'm pretty sure
you
when you were
kidding?
predicting this game, we did say it was boring, I think.
I think the words were this game was going to be terrible because I said that I predicted a lot of draws. I mean, admittedly, none of them have been draws, but you look at the games, Aston Villa,
Well,
Watford.
Apart from the Sheffield United.
Is he actually coming on?
Can I ask why everyone is so upset in chat that Ings is coming on? I mean, you've got him on the
because of
bench.
Because we all
substitutes,
benched him.
James.
We all benched him.
Oh, it should have been a goal for Sheffield United.
It's probably going to be a 1-pointer. So
Charlie, sorry, what was this?
Oh, quality ball in from Stevens. Quality ball. Literally past the back line of Man City. It would have been offside anyway. But it could have been a tapping, but it would have been offside. Are you serious? Ings has come on.
I don't freaking believe it! Aguero.
Sorry?
Aguero scored.
Actually,
Yeah.
Aguero scored.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And there's also I think it's a goal at Bournemouth, Steve. Jace. Not that anyone's really bothered about the Bournemouth game.
I am. I've got Ramsdale. Please don't say it's a Brighton goal.
No, it's not. I think it's a Bournemouth goal. 3-0 Bournemouth, I think.
Thank you.
Are you serious? That's like -1 for Stevens. No, I'm not for Stevens. For Webster.
Come on, Aguero.
Oh, and it's a KDB assist as well.
Is it? Oh, I'll
Yeah.
take that. I'll take the
KDB
KDB assist.
Dad, it doesn't matter, okay? We're 16 points clear.
Can't believe Ings has come on. Are you kidding me?
What? Actually, I'm going
Has
to.
Aussie boy been told off for his dad by for cheering his City goal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a joke that is.
Oh,
Why
my
bring
God.
on Danny Ings?
And just to clarify,
Oh my. Yeah,
is 3-0 to Bournemouth. Callum Wilson.
Yeah,
I'm sure Buna just
God.
took him out of his team.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
confirmed,
he did. He done his wildcard, didn't he?
confirmed at Villa it is a target assist, Douglas Luiz goal, and he actually celebrated on road
Arsenal
D,
red
so
card.
he ended up taking a yellow.
Is there another red card at Arsenal?
Sorry?
Huh?
Oh,
Red
sorry,
card-
was that from a long time ago?
Oh,
Oh, jeez.
Sorry about that.
I thought.
James
I know
Bang.
I'm
James Bang is back in 2019.
Jeez, I know I'm watching like this game with cocktail sticks in my eyes, but I'm pretty sure I would have noticed if it was down to 9 men.
it is a question. Do you think that Pep Guardiola is now going to look at this and think, I have to play Aguero every game?
Oh yeah, surely. Unless he's got some sort of grudge.
I just think, Steve-o, this is only my opinion of. I think he's going to go for the Champions League. I think he's just went. Do you know what? The league's done and dusted.
Yeah.
I'm going to secure a Champions League spot for next season. So let's just concentrate fully on trying to win the Champions League this year.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I think.
Calvert-Lewin with a cracking shot that required a worldy save from Dubravka on his bottom left post.
James, Carlo Ancelotti has come out and said that, essentially, that I said this ages ago, that Calvert-Lewin is his number one man and thinks he's a top striker. I mean, watching him, do you think that this has just given him so much confidence? That's why he's playing so well?
He's playing a lot better without Moise Kean because he's being fed now by the midfielders. And he's getting a few shots off now. So there could be another goal here at Goodison Park.
Unbelievable. Stevens is currently on 9 points, and he's currently on 2 bonus, and he's not going to be coming on. Unbelievable.
Oh. What a crazy win.
Oh.
Watch Ings score as well now. Jesus.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so, because Mechanic took him out for Delafeu.
Alright, I'd like to give I can't remember.
Oh, Holgate's come really close to scoring.
Has he? I've got him as well.
Just got it wide of the post.
Vish, thank you so much for becoming our latest member. Thank you, Vish. Hope you've enjoyed the stream.
Yeah.
Cheers, buddy. Much appreciated. Get some love in chat for Vish, please, guys.
I'd like to shout out Chelsea Flyer for saying sorry for the loss on the -8 early. So yeah, that's what I gotta say to that.
He's currently
finger.
Yeah, put it up to him.
Put it up, there we are.
And who else
That's
it was?
the Chelsea
Brew or
Flyer.
something. Brew probably said it as well, I'm assuming. Or Dre. Actually, I reckon it was Dre.
I just want to go and watch a movie.
For any Man United fans out there, Bruno Fernandes has got an assist for Sporting tonight.
If United, oh my God, Bournemouth Fraser nearly just scored a goal there.
And Bruno Fernandes.
Aguero is massively haunting me. Yeah, definitely. He's been my nemesis this season, Aguero.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, Ramsdale is on 10 points with bonus.
Is he?
Lundstrom's coming on. Apparently, says Tobias.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Lundstrom's on. Yeah.
All right.
Wait, so did Ings go on in the end? Or was it just a rumour?
While we're quickly at a quiet moment here, Aston Villa 1, Watford 1, Douglas Luiz dealing with the goals, Target and Delafeu with the assist. Bournemouth 3-0, Callum Wilson, Harry Wilson with the goals, along with a gross own goal. Solanke 2 assists, 1 from Rico. Crystal Palace 0, Southampton 2, Redmond and Armstrong with the goals. Stevens, Redmond with the assist. Everton 2-0 up, Calvert-Lewin, Keane with the goals. Digne, and Bernard with the assists. And then we've just heard Sheffield United 0, Man City 1, Aguero coming off the bench, scoring immediately. Kevin De Bruyne assist. And finally, Chelsea 1, Arsenal 0, thanks to a Jorginho penalty, David Luiz fouling Abraham, getting sent off. And Lama's there. Lama, how is the game so far?
Yeah, sorry about that, Steve. I had to disappear. Swimming pool. No, the game's been good. Chelsea should be about 3-0 up, to be honest. Tammy Abraham has had a couple of attempts that Leno's tipped over the bar. But yeah, still remains 1-0. See what the second half brings. Take it there's nothing much happening elsewhere.
Corey, you okay?
It's all Aston Villa now since they scored. I don't know how Tyrone Mings hasn't had a red card though. Delafeu knocked the ball past him. He was the last man, and he seemed to stick his arm out and block the ball. Referee gave the free kick, but it didn't go to VAR or another yellow card. It's one of them where it did actually look as though he did move his arm towards the ball to stop it going past him.
Well, something just.
Cath Carter's just been yellow carded for Watford.
Well, something just happened in the Brighton game that completely sums up Brighton.
There could be a goal at the Brighton game. I've got a goal alert coming up at Brighton.
Oh no!
Oh, what?
Please be offside.
Please be Mopay.
Build up. I was just gonna say Brighton nearly conceded off a mistake, but
Oof.
please, it's Moy. Get in.
Oh, really?
Damn it!
Aaron
what a
Moy, of course it would be.
There it
And
is.
there goes my 10 points
there
off
goes
Ramsdale.
Nico's clean sheet, so I don't feel as sad.
Who got the assist, Aussie boy?
I'm not sure. I was like, Moy dribbled a little bit. I'll tell you in a second. It came off a Bournemouth defender because there was a cross in from Trossard. And then I think Oh no, it was someone else actually. It was.
You know,
it was a cross in from
VAR's been surprisingly quiet today, guys. Have you
Oh
guys
no,
noticed?
there's actually possible handball. Boy, it looks like it's clean though.
It's being used for this, but it's been given. It has been given.
Yeah. So no assist, I don't think, because it was a cross in play and he headed it to Moy and then Moy finished it. Yeah.
I love that commentary, Aussie boy. Keep that up, pal. Moy done a little bit of dribbling.
I'm honestly just so happy about Aguero. I can't concentrate.
So,
So,
Steve-O,
I've just-
does that give you more confidence in your Aguero move for the Tottenham game?
Well, let's just put it this way. I've got a -8 up on my screen right now, and I'm in a
Don't do it
difficult
yet.
situation because I've got 0.2 in the bank at the moment, and looking at the home screen, 2 of those players, Aguero being one of them, are being transferred in quite quickly, and I'm a bit concerned that potentially I may
gonna
miss
get
out by
priced out.
0.2, but it all depends on how tonight goes, really.
I'd press it if I was you.
Thank you, Lama. It's a difficult one because obviously there's no Premier League football this weekend.
To be honest, Steve, it's not that hard. It's just a left click on the mouse button.
Yeah. In fact, we've got the next. I don't know if you're aware or not. The next football isn't for 2 weeks after this.
Yeah, 1st of February.
FA Cup round, isn't it? On the weekend.
No, it's the 8th of February, Lama. And then what's happened here? This is the winter break.
No,
And-
1st of February I've got here. Is it? Yeah, I've got 1st of
Oh,
February.
sorry,
It's
my
not this coming
apologies.
weekend,
I think Aguero has been given a yellow card.
Really?
What? Been given
Charlie?
what?
For time wasting.
He's been given a yellow for time wasting.
Yeah, he kicked the ball. He kicked the ball over the advertising hoardings. I've just watched it here, and the referee Lee Mason's like, "Well, sorry, there you go, yellow card."
Yeah.
Right, Jason, Steve-O, if you want me to come back and commentate on the 3 o'clock games on the 1st of February, what game do you want me to go to? Bournemouth Villa, Crystal Palace Sheffield United, or Newcastle Norwich?
I mean, Llama, Burnley are up against Arsenal next. Do you have any faith in Burnley? Do you think we'll get something?
Jeez, I would.
Trust that
Honestly, I've went to some stand-up comedy shows that haven't been as funny as Arsenal.
Sterling has just missed another great opportunity.
You know what? I don't care as long as Aguero scores. I don't care that he's got the yellow. Whatever. Oh, Solanke's coming off now.
Oh,
Substitution.
Calvert-Lewin's had a penalty denied by VAR.
Oh, really? Tell us about it, James.
Lascelles, for violent conduct, was very aggressive towards Calvert-Lewin, shoving him, but they decided it's not enough for a penalty.
Right.
Okay, so we've had violent conduct.
No red card.
We've had someone poke someone in the eye, and VAR hasn't seen any of it. Wow. That's VAR.
Is Charlie? I'll ask you. Is Danny Ings still a must-have?
No, he's a fraud.
Why'd you say that?
Yeah, he is. All honesty, yeah, he is. He's got
He's a
quality
must-have.
fixtures coming up on a massive green. So yeah, I'd say he is.
And your thoughts, Charlie, on people having Aguero? Or do you just think, nah, it's not really worth it?
Nah, for the fixtures coming up, I don't think personally. I'd rather have someone like Aubameyang maybe.
Aubameyang?
Oh, come on, Charlie. I told you to hold your about Aubameyang. I told you, I said, don't say anything about Aubameyang. I'm thinking about him 29, and then you go and just blow it up in the stream live. Thanks for that.
I didn't hear anything about that.
Bonus points as it stands. Redmond for Southampton on bonus 3. Surprise, surprise. Stevens on bonus 2. Armstrong bonus 1.
Thanks, Jason.
We've got Sheffield United versus Man City. We've got Henderson on bonus 3. As it stands, De Bruyne on bonus 2 and Otamendi bonus 1. Everton Newcastle, we've got Digne bonus 3, Keane bonus 2, and Delphin Holgate on a joint bonus 1.
Hey!
Bournemouth versus Brighton, we've got Moy on bonus 3, Callum Wilson on bonus 2, and Harry Wilson on bonus 1. Aston Villa versus Watford, we've got Deeney on bonus 3, Target on bonus 2, and Douglas Luiz on bonus 1. Chelsea versus Arsenal, we've got Jorginho, the penalty taker, on bonus 3, Bellerin on bonus 2, and Rudiger and Abraham both on bonus 1.
And how many minutes are left in these particular games? About 15 minutes or so?
No.
7:30 kickoffs?
No, it's about 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It's about 45 minutes.
Of course,
minutes.
the Chelsea game's going to be finishing about 10 o'clock at
Hang
night.
on. Sterling to settle it again. The shot blocked. All I've heard this game is Sterling just running into the box and just...
Chances is awful.
For everyone who transferred in Decore, he's just got a yellow card.
Oh, Llama, you own him.
Yeah, alright, Steve. Well, there's no need to laugh about it. I've actually had him in for a few weeks. He's done absolutely nothing. That's having on about 7 yellows now, I think.
Any chance of Newcastle getting a goal, James, or no chance?
Not at all. They're being dominated by Everton at the moment. Bunch of clowns, call them.
Has Ings done anything in the Southampton? Is
I
anyone
don't
watching
think
that game?
anyone's watching.
Oh my god, I'm watching this game. Sterling is like one of the most selfish players in this game I've ever seen. Oh my life.
Well,
Just looking to shoot at every moment.
For entertainment purposes, here's the first bet that I can officially rip up, which is Bournemouth and Brighton, Crystal Palace and Southampton to draw. Ain't happening.
I've heard Bournemouth.
And don't forget to hit the like button, guys. 250 people here, really, Dan. 49 likes. Come on, guys, let's get some more likes in the stream. And if you
beat the last time.
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's going up to 62 already. 64.
He's lining up the shot. It's only about 20 yards out. And the referee's blown his whistle.
So,
Free kick, and he skies it to Rose Ed.
Jason, in all seriousness, how are you feeling now?
just I don't really know, to be honest with you. I need a small violin to play, I think, somewhere.
I'm livid with Stevens on the bench with 11 points. Absolutely.
Charlie, you were never
livid.
going to play him. It's just one of those unfortunate circumstances where.
There's 4 added minutes in the Bournemouth Brighton game. If anyone.
I tell you now, guys, this is
Apparently, Kevin De Bruyne was on now 3 bonus points.
Yeah, so basically the way I feel right now, right, is when sometimes you feel... I'll take my earphones out because I want to be able to hear this. I'm going to turn that off. Sometimes you feel that, you can be a little bit smart on FPL and, I don't know, feel like you can get one step ahead of your rivals by seeing an obvious transfer and taking the opportunities. Maybe you get some early team news and you get a bit panicky last minute. Sometimes you can second guess yourself. Sometimes you can think things are going to get better for me. Sometimes you can think Aguero isn't going to come on and score a goal, surely. Jesus is bound to start scoring big hauls for Man City, but no. It all comes crashing down. And why does it come crashing down? Because this is FPL. And FPL... Oh, I'm not finished with it. Carry on. FPL is one of those games that can make you feel great, or it can make you feel like the worst thing in the whole wide world. There you go. There you go, guys. See you later. I'm going to just go into the sunset. This is my moment. God damn it!
Charlie, has Sheffield United got any chance of scoring in this game at all? Or is just no hope?
No. They've had a few good chances throughout the game, but nah, Man City are just keeping it in the corner now, just time wasting.
Do you think City have got a chance of scoring again? Nicking one?
They could do on the counter attack. They've hit them a few times on the counter attack. About
How long's left?
just over 2 minutes.
Yeah, there's about a minute left in the Brighton.
Hey, there's 43 minutes left here, Steve-O. 43 minutes left here.
Who's tapping?
That'll be probably me. And I can't believe you can hear that. That's nuts.
Well, no, it's weird because we can hear the things, the ambient sounds in your room more than we can hear you.
Well,
Not heard the nice cream
Chris
fan
live
for a
now.
while.
I'm going to change the
Oh,
radio.
is there a chance
live there.
is there a chance at Newcastle? Got a goal
There
flash
is?
at Newcastle.
Oh my god.
Oh, you're
Oh
joking.
my god. There goes the Holgate clean sheet.
Yeah,
Oh.
big chance Newcastle.
Are you serious?
In the 93rd minute.
Oh, cry me a
Oh,
river.
are you kidding me?
All you Holgate owners. There we go.
Oh my days.
Something I can be happy about.
Oh my days.
Beautiful
Take those 4
bicycle-
points away from Holgate.
You're
There we
kidding,
go.
right?
bicycle kick.
There! Where's
Who was it?
It was. Give me a second.
So are you talking through a pillow?
Yeah, you talking through your pillow.
What the
I can't even hear him.
Well, actually, I think if I look at my TV screen, I can see that your favourite score, I think, yeah, it's definitely that person, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you're
That's-
absolutely
that's-
right. I
That's
was talking through my
James,
pillow.
James is talking through Bitcoin.
But, you know, it's 6 a.m. here, guys.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's Florian Lejeune with a
Right.
beautiful bicycle kick.
Right.
Centre back with a bicycle kick. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I was on about bringing him in on my wildcard as well.
What a shame.
Of course, he's taking away Holgate's.
Yeah, innit? That's what I said. Jesus Christ.
Oh, Newcastle almost
Ah.
equalised. Oh, it's been cleared off the line twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times.
Yeah, it's still flashing it here. It's
And
still
they've
flashing.
equalised. They've equalised.
They've equalised.
What?
They've equalised.
Sometime here,
Absolute madness here.
What?
Terry
It's,
has
and it's our
taken-
best friend Almiron.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Are you kidding me?
They literally were playing, what's that game, you know, like, it came
Man
off the
City have ended.
Pinball. Playing pinball.
pinball, thank you. They played
Wait,
pinball
so
off the
what's
line
that- what's
6
just
times.
happened? What the
Newcastle
hell?
have just came from 2-0 down to 2 each in
I
the
think it's
In the
disgusting.
95th minute?
93rd and 95th minute.
What
And it's
the
a 94
flip?
minute. There was
That's
only 4 minutes extra
disgraceful.
time.
That is disgraceful.
That's
Absolutely
minus
disgusting.
points. Yeah.
my God.
Unbelievable.
How is that
Holgate
possible?
on clean sheet and bonus, and then
Aussie, it's possible because it's happened.
Yeah,
That's what I just. You not just heard my monologue. That's FPL. 1 minute you think you're in the top of the world, next minute you sink to the bottom of Davy Jones's locker, my friend. And you got. You might as well rip up that one. Yeah, we go.
oh my god.
Oh, does that mean my Calvert-Lewin bonus point's gone? That's my only bonus
It's
point.
a chance. Oh no.
Oh,
Handball.
Aguero sneaking in on a bonus point here.
Full time 1-0 Man City.
Oh, Sheffield United, was it?
Nah,
Just
Man
wanted to
City.
change it.
Yeah, 1-0 Man City. Aguero. Jason's best friend scored
So
again.
6 points.
Oh,
for
that's a
Aguero then.
handball. Oh, there should have been a handball here at this game, by the way.
yeah, I've just turned it to that now.
Okay, so interestingly, Sheffield United, Man City, Otamendi bonus 3, along with what 3 players on bonus 3 as it stands: Otamendi, Henderson, and De Bruyne.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Oh, sorry. Looks like Florian Lejeune they've given it the goal to. So a brace from a defender.
There could be a goal at Villa. There could be a goal at Villa. It better not be Grealish.
A brace from Lejeune.
No.
Oh my God!
In the
Ball is
95th minute.
I'll tell you in a minute.
I don't care. I got no one there from either team.
Oh my God! The goal was Hayden. You're kidding me.
Yeah, Villa have scored.
Are you serious?
They've given it to Lejeune.
There's 10 seconds left in stoppage time on my.
I'll be able to tell you now.
Who scored? Was it Villa?
Yeah.
It was Villa.
It
Yeah.
is a free kick to Villa, but inside their own half.
Yeah, it's Grealish. Then.
How many
That would be
Baps?
Grealish.
Anyone know how many Baps winning goal Baps is? Anyone know?
The chat's
it
saying
3?
Konza's just scored.
Esri Konsa. Wow.
Who?
Esri Konsa, ex-Charlton and
Exactly.
Brentford centre back.
Any chance Grealish got an assist?
It's 3, is it? Oh, thank you, Firetog. So
Mine's
Aguero's going to be
assist.
bonus 1 then.
Looks like the
Ah.
chat are saying it's, or Vicious saying in chat it's a Mines assist and a Konza goal.
The free kick came in from Reina. It landed to Mings, and the ball rebounded out to Contra, and it hit it. in the
Thank
front
God,
eight.
Hayden.
That is back up.
And that must have been the last kick of the game. 2-1
Yeah,
Villa.
there were 4 minutes of added time. It's actually gone in at 94:50.
Wow.
And Grealish done nothing.
Unbelievable.
Doesn't
What a
say
shocking
this, yeah.
start.
So Man City and Chelsea with the only clean sheet.
And Southampton.
And Southampton, yeah. I did not even see that. Yeah, Crystal Palace, Southampton.
The only reason I know that is because my players on the bench.
Yeah.
The goal at Aston Villa, it fell to Conser, hit it, and as Tyrone Mings has fallen down, it's actually hit Mings' heel and gone up over the goal into the top corner.
Well,
So it
Cameron says I had Ryan over
goal now.
Tyrone
Polly.
Mings goal.
Polly, even your dogs are going mental at Villa scoring there at the end.
I've not got any dogs. I don't know where they're coming from.
Those are my
Oh.
goals.
No, they're not. They're called dogs.
Steve-O, your thoughts on tonight's games?
Just incredible. I think from a real life perspective, I think Watford, Nigel Pearson will be absolutely fuming at the fact that a team which don't seem to concede any goals have gone and conceded 2 tonight.
Full time at Villa Park, a winning goal in the 95th, so the 5th minute
Yeah,
or 4
not-
added up.
Especially in the relegation battle where he's come out and said that he sets up basically not to lose against these teams because obviously being their rivals, and he's gone and conceded in the last minute.
Well,
I think Bournemouth are a bunch of frauds. I think it's disgraceful that they've decided to turn up tonight, beating Brighton 3-1. Brighton, I think they're in serious trouble. I said them along with Burnley and Aston Villa.
I predicted Bournemouth were going to win that game.
Mm.
And
We have 9 points on the bench at the moment.
I got the Southampton Palace game right as well.
Crystal Palace continue their atrocious form at home. I don't know what is going on with Crystal Palace at home, but they are just absolutely pants. Everton, Ancelotti will be absolutely raging at that result. I think if you're an Everton fan, I mean, that was a game in which it's just like, you know what, to show that we're moving forward, just do a professional job, win 1-2-0, and we just move on. And it's ended 2-2. I think that's terrible.
Well, I predicted 2-1. I was like, yes, come on, and then the last minute, like, oh dear. Yeah.
And of course, Sheffield United losing 1-0. It just says everything about Sheffield United. Still, they are very, very solid defensively, and Man City's quality just finally shine through. And then obviously we've got Chelsea 1-0 at the moment versus Arsenal.
We've got a massive substitution here. Ozils went off for Guendouzi.
Wait, did you just get that?
Well, lad in chat says you got trolled so bad, Jason. Lol. Yeah, whatever, man.
Just to confirm, it has gone down as a Tyrone Mings goal and a Conser assist.
Oh, Mings' goal.
Yeah, it hit him on the heel when he was falling down.
Unbelievable.
You gotta love it when you have 9 points on the bench, don't you?
Okay.
Hayden 5, Rico 5, Onstrom 1. Right.
At least you haven't got Stevens with 11.
Oh my god.
Marshall Mathers saying he's got 14 points from 6. Anurag's apparently on 33 points.
Wait, Lama, what minute are you in the Chelsea game?
I'm about 57, 58.
Oh, okay, you're ahead of me. I'm 56 minutes.
I think you'll find Australia's ahead of me. You're in a... I think it's in the morning and it's still night time here.
Sorry, Jason, did you say Anurag's got 33
Yeah,
points?
he says he's got 33 points.
Did he captain someone tonight? I mean, I can't...
I'm trying to struggle to think how he's got those points, to be honest with you.
Delafeu, he's probably got.
He must have Lejeune, 2 goals.
Yeah.
Jesus. What is going on?
I
Lejeune.
don't know.
Yes, Fire Tog, as Charlie's just mentioned, he does have Stevens on the bench just to...
So I'm on 20 points. Folks.
Davey FPL with double Crystal Palace defense.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Rico on the bench. Wow.
I'll take that, Jason. That's all right, isn't it? 20,
I'm on 13
points.
13 points from 4.
I'm 20 for 4.
Same as you, Lava.
17 from 4.
Yeah, but you got bonus 3 coming in from Henderson, aren't you? So
And
set to 20.
KDB, did you say?
And KDB as well, if it stays like this. I
It
think.
will all change. It all evens itself out, I think. I don't think...
I'm doing awful.
I don't think so. I think
Awful.
it's going to stay Otamendi, Henderson, and KDB getting 3 points. You're going to get 6 points from that game.
Wow.
Bonus 3 from De Bruyne and Henderson. It's nice.
Nice.
Well, it's
I'm
the
not-
Henderson. It's not. I couldn't care less about Kevin De Bruyne because once again everybody owns him. But Henderson,
Yeah.
excellent bonus there. That's a real bonus for me. Anybody that's got Henderson like Llama, that is an absolute incredible.
Everyone else just non-FPL assets, like highly owned. I mean, there's no highly
Calvert
owned.
Lewin's only 9.5.
Yeah, but he's not getting bonus points.
Yeah, the yellow card knocked him out.
I've got
Well,
17
as it
points.
stands, he's on 1 actually.
No, Hayden's on 1.
Oh, he's on my
Yeah.
bench as well. How lovely.
That last-minute goal, I think, for Newcastle is knocked him out the
17
bonus points. Yeah, he's knocked him out the bonus points. Hayden 1, Digna 2, Keane 3.
I got 17 points from 7 players.
Steve, you're on 23 points.
Jesus Christ. Oh, what awful game week.
Absolutely right. That's about me done. I'm fed up already now. You want to wrap it up, Steve? I'm going to go, and I'll end the stream when I'll end the stream when you're done.
Aye, what I'll do, lads, is I'll just stay down in London.
This has been torturous, isn't it?
I'll just text in Discord how Chelsea and
I was going to say, let's just we'll just
Yeah.
wrap it up here, Jason, because we'll be in literally for half an hour waiting for nothing, to be honest, because it's going to end 1-0 to Chelsea. But yeah, I think we'll just call it a night, Jason. But just to are you doing the games tomorrow or not? I'm not.
I think I'm just going to lay in bed, contemplating my FPL existence. I don't know is the answer to that. I really don't know.
Fair enough.
To be honest,
clarify that-
I've not really spent much time with my wife to be, so I don't know yet.
Well, on that note, yeah, thanks everybody for watching tonight. We are going to wrap it up now. Like I said, it's only the Chelsea-Arsenal game, and to be honest with you, it's sounding absolutely atrocious according to Llama. So I think we're just going to end it. There's no point in staying on for a further half hour.
Oh, it's an
'cause-
absolute pile of wash.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks to everybody for joining us on this extraordinary evening where it started off so
rubbish!
bad.
It's been rubbish, man. Let's be honest. It's
Shocking.
been rubbish. It didn't start off rubbish and stay and then get better. It's just been rubbish.
Shocking.
It's been rubbish.
Well,
It's been particularly more rubbish for me.
And me as well.
From a real life perspective, it's been exciting, but from an FPL perspective, it's been absolutely atrocious. Obviously, tomorrow evening, Leicester, West Ham, Spurs, Norwich, Man U, Burnley, and then of course we have the first of 2 games for Liverpool, where Wolves take on Liverpool. But thanks to everybody that watched us this evening. It's the usual thing, really. If you've enjoyed tonight's show and you haven't shown your support, then the easiest way to do it is just simply hit the like button on your way out. If you are completely brand new around here and you haven't subscribed, by all means just simply hit that subscribe button. We are pretty much almost a daily streamer, so I think this is day 5 or 6 in a row, Jason, of streaming. I can't even remember now, but we've done a lot of streaming, and
Yeah.
there could potentially be one tomorrow evening. Stay tuned for that. Other than that, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Elite FPL. And I think that's it, Jason. I think we can wrap it up there.
I'm getting a green.
Thank you.
I'm getting a
Of course,
green
thank you
arrow, by
to-
the way.
Thank you, of course, to our correspondents, Daily Llama, Paul,
10 out.
Charlie, Aussie Boy, and James Bang. Thank you, guys.
No worries.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Cheers,
Cheers.
cheers, guys.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, I'll see you later, guys. Take care. Can't believe I'm getting a green arrow. Wow. Anyway, thank you, Steve-O. Thank you, chat. Thank you.
Yes, cheers, Jason.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure. Really, really has.
See you later, guys.